Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video. My next guest, he needs no introduction. It's a legendary Carlos Magno. If you're a comic book fan, I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you've heard of his work. He's worked on various different comics. Recently, he's gotten to do Kang for, oh, I'm holding upside down here, Kang for Marvel. But he's gotten to do quite a few stuff. Of course, he has his comps there. He's also gotten to work in comics such as Invaders, Planet of the Apes, Robocop, Lantern City, Deathmatch, Wings of Light, Avengers Mech Strike, Empire, Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxies, Thunderbolt, and much more. But Carlos has very kindly agreed to come on for an interview and let me annoy him.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Carlos, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to getting it. So many different things I want to get into. So before we get into Kang, the first question I want to ask you is, how did you get into comic books?
Like anyone else, there is no big epiphany about this. I was just a boy like anyone else who liked comics book, and I felt that it's the only way to express myself as an individual. I really enjoyed at the time when I was a kid, the Incredible Hulk TV
Yes.
series. It means a lot to me when I was a kid, and it kindled something wonderful inside of me. And I spent my whole life dreaming about this this opportunity to work in the comic books. I study a lot. I work in other areas, suffered, cried, took a million of tests, listened too many no. It's a
Yeah.
part of the whole thing. And one day I heard yes, and here I am.
Perfect. And so were you a comic book fan growing up as a child?
Yes. Uh, yes, definitely. My favorite character was the Hulk. The Hulk
Yeah.
was responsible for everything that happened afterwards. I collected everything, and I learned a lot from these comic books. From this character. I learned a lot from these artists who work in these stories, how to draw, how to tell a story visually, and what can I do, what I can't not to do it. And then I discovered the Conan, the Barbarian, Spider-Man, X-Men, and everything else. But I did just don't to stop with that,
Yeah.
doing just collector, but I start to looking at the French comic books, Italian comic books, start to analyze all these comics and extract as much information as I could.
Yeah.
Basically, I had comics for a way of learning.
Yeah, definitely. And so then what was your first comic book work? What was your first comic book?
uh, that is a long story. After having struggled a lot of done many tests, my agent at the time, there was Joy Prado. God bless Joy. He put me on the list of artists and who would make Jonah X return. Do you remember Jonah X from DC Comics?
Yes, Jonah Hex.
Yes. And so look at this. I was starting on the top of the very top of um, publisher at the
Yeah.
time. It was DC Comics, and I didn't start with the smaller companies. I started with the big company and I realized that uh, I couldn't draw it, and I could keep the schedule of this comic book. Joe Prado was very wise when he told me at the time, just he said, just wait a little bit. He gave me a great lesson. He said, keep calm, it's a job like any other. And yes, that's what I did. I started off writing, working as smaller publishers like Moonstone Books, drawing the Phantom, Sherlock Holmes, and the small characters.
Yeah, definitely. And so then how were you approached by Marvel Comics?
Mm, at the same year, in 2005, after working with this.
Sorry, Carlos, you muted yourself. Perfect, you're back now. Sorry.
After learning how to draw, how to keep my schedule, my agent said that Marvel Comics wanted to reintroduce the Captain Universe. You remember Captain Universe? The
Yes.
blue one? Yes. And so it was. Before long as I was again the biggest publisher, drawing Captain Universe with my favorite character that was the Hulk and the Captain Universe. And after that, I spent a lot of time um, drawing the Super Silver, Blaster, Guardians of the Galaxy, and many titles from Marvel Comics. I remember that took something around 6 months
Wow.
working with these titles, with all of these titles in this period.
Yeah, definitely. And Kang the Conqueror issue 1 just came out in stores recently. What was it like getting to work on Kang?
I I built something really cool at Marvel, and it's something you have to do by yourself. It's being very responsible, and I was very responsible about this. It's not enough to be talent; you have to be responsible. Kang was a gift given by Marvel Comics. You know,
Definitely.
they entrust me with the Kang, and in part because I draw him in Avengers Mech Strike, where he had been the villain. Working at Kang was wonderful. He's a typical Marvel villain that put us in the middle of the 60s. He forces you to be kind of Shakespeare,
Yeah.
because everything about him is exaggerated. And it was amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And is Kang a hard character to draw? Because he looks very different. Is he hard for you to draw, Kang?
Well, so Kang is not difficult character to draw. There are thousands of other characters that are much harder to do it. Basically, the character lines is very easy. It's very easy,
Oh, wow.
but not to the point. It is the fact that the whole essence of the character is, and his attitude is reflecting his physique. You know,
Yeah.
he's exaggerated, and I said before, villains in general has a lot of to do with Shakespeare created. Everything is exaggerated, and it's like a Phantom of the Opera. You
Yeah.
know, all causes for Kang are reasons for the end of the world. And that is the hardest things to portray.
Yeah, definitely. And so, did Marvel approach you and ask you to draw Kang, or did you come to them, or did they send you an email, or so did Marvel approach you to work on Kang?
Yes, they loved my work in the Avengers Mech Strike, and the way I portrayed Kang. And Jackson Lazen, the writer, and he saw my Kang in Avengers and said, "That's what I want." It was great. You know, and that's how I work in this wonderful project.
Yeah, definitely. And so, before we move on, everyone watching, you can pick up Kang issue 1 from your local comic book store. Maybe is issue 2 out in stores right now?
Yes, last week.
Yeah, last week. So you can actually pick up issue 2 as well. But yeah, you can pick up either issue 1 and issue 2. But yeah, so you also got to work on Avengers Mech Strike, which you brought up there. What was it like getting to work on Avengers Mech Strike?
I think it was this was a coincidence, but for a long time while working at IDW, I drew Transformers, and it was really cool job, and I love to do it. Somehow, well, I can say I think Marvel saw my material, and they thought that I was the right artist for the project. And since I drew the Avengers before, I think the fact that I worked with robots before helped me a lot to come aboard in this book.
Yeah, definitely. And so was it fun to draw the Avengers in robot suits?
It was cool, cool and fun because I was working two things that I had built in my career. For example, I worked in 2 years in Transformers, and it was like making Avengers and Transformers together. And if we see the true stories of Transformers in the comics, they appeared in the Marvel comics first. It was
Yeah.
the Marvel Comics creation, and I thought that it was cool to revisit these roots again. I thought that it was great to have to relearn how to draw these robots again.
Yeah, and so Invaders, I have right here, was another comic book series you got to work on. What was it like getting to work with Chip Zdarsky?
Chip is a really nice guy. He's very an amazing guy, an amazing professional. No wonder he's winning several awards. During our work together, Chip gave to me a lot of advice that is still used today.
Wow.
He is a writer who is always looking what you're doing with his pages. He always want to make sure that the pages are going in the same direction as his script. When there is something that he doesn't like very much, for example, he just talks in a way that you never get offended. He is the right partner for any kind of book.
Yeah, definitely. And so do you have a favorite comic book character to draw in any type of comic books? That is fun for you to draw?
Well, I think all the characters I work in are really awesome.
Yeah.
They have their level of difficulty. When you work on a character, you are not only on your physic drawing. You are working on his soul as well. And I love the Hulk. Even my wife told me not to keep my focus on the Hulk because I talked about the Hulk in all interview. She thinks that sometimes I exaggerate when I talk about the character, but it's true. I always talk about the Hulk, and Hulk is the most responsible for everything that was happening in my entire life, and it's very gratifying that the Marvel gave me to draw the Hulk several times.
Yeah, definitely. And so what was it like getting to work on Planet of the Apes, which was another comic book you got to do?
Planet of the Apes was really complicated.
Yes.
Uh, it was a dream come true. I always loved that kind of universe. That book was a gift, and I think Planet of the Apes worked for three reasons. The publisher who loved the book, the writer, Derek Gregory, loved the book, and as myself, I loved the book. And we spent 2 wonderful years working this book. And it is in many ways, it's very different from the was presented in the world of Planet of the Apes. We changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
The entire look of the book was left to me. I did the entire visual. I decided everything about the visual of the book. Visually, I made all decisions. And when you have this kind of powers, you do 100% that you love, what you love.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is it hard for you to draw monkeys? Because I mean, you've done robot suit and monkeys, and we all know what monkeys look like. So is it hard or difficult to draw the monkeys?
No, not in a way. It was extremely pleasurable. Drawing apes was very natural for me. But what actually happened and in the book was some fans didn't like it because I I changed a little things from the classical from the classical design that was created in the middle of the 60s. For example, there's something in the face of the apes that I changed a little bit, you know, and I did, and I think honestly that we separate the, the designs from the original, concept of this that universe, and we tried to create something entirely new, and it was great. There is a kind of apes that was shown on the Planet of the Apes series, but for example, I did something more realistic. The real apes, the real chimpanzees, just having more real gorillas and the whole thing, this kind of universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as an artist, what is your least favorite thing to draw or the thing you hate drawing most? Like whenever you see it in a script, you're like,
Wow, it's hard to answer that one. I like to draw everything. I never put myself in the position of being able to say that I don't like to draw such a thing. You know, what I don't like is to be thwarted by a bad view of things. You know, for example, when you create a really cool character, you know, you create it and you love this character, and then there is someone who says that it must be another way, and that this way is ridiculous. You know, when you have to change it for to have another kind of approach. You know, and this is something I don't like to draw. And another way, I love to draw everything.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like you just brought it up there, do you have a favorite thing to draw?
Well, when you charge off books, you know, this kind of weird universe, everything just becomes favorite. You know, and in Planet of the Apes, for example, I love to draw horses.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, apes okay, it's a part of the whole thing, but horses was the magic, wasn't
Wow.
magical. You know, it was great to draw horses. And Transformers, I love to create new robots, you know. And Deathmatch, for example, I love to create those crazy character designs. And I like to draw everything, provided you have the control over what is being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I can't believe you like drawing horses because I know a lot of artists do not like drawing horses. But yes,
Yeah, my horses. I think the horses are is a big challenge. You know, when you can draw horses, you can draw everything.
yeah, definitely. And sorry, you also got to work on the RoboCop comic. So were you a fan of the RoboCop movie before you worked on the comic?
Not a lot. I'm a fan of Robocop, but looking back today, I think I like more the movies and the stories and the villains more than the Robocop itself. You know, Robocop was very difficult to draw. He had real issues with the anatomy. You know, for example, he could never do this with his arms, never, because his shoulders were so high that if he did that, you know, his head would be crushed. You know?
Wow.
But I fixed it, and in the end, they become the entire universe of Robocop became more easiest to do.
Yeah, definitely. And so you got to work on Transformers for 2 years. So what was it like
Yeah,
getting to work on Transformers for like 2 years? What was that like?
you might think, well, 2 years go by pretty quickly, you know. But think in terms of work. If you don't love what you're doing, it can be turned into a terrible nightmare. You know, with Transformers, what happened is that I love them, and and that made my job easier. I knew working on a movie franchise could be very, very challenging.
Yeah.
I remember doing half page a day, just half page a day, and I usually to work on the 2 pages a day. You know,
Wow.
and with Transformers, it was like you know, it was really difficult if he didn't time to do the entire book. The book would have been in a huge problem. You know,
Yeah.
my editors at the time were great because they gave me 40 days to do each book, and I have plenty time to do it. And in the end, after all this effort, I look back and I thought that's why I love comics and I do comics because you can do express yourself on pages and it was great.
Yes, definitely. And so one of your other comics, Deathmatch, and I know you got to work on that. So what was it like getting to work on Deathmatch?
This was one of the few projects that was started from scratch. I was responsible for the entire design of the book. Paul Jenkins was the writer at the time, explained the very general lines what he would like to see in the book. And I think it took us over 2 months to develop the characters, and they are many, all very different from each other, and with different origins and the stories. And
Yeah.
we spent a lot of more than a year making the comic book. You know, it was really cool to work with Paul Jenkins. He is the one of those rare talents that appear in every 1,000 years. You know, but the coolest thing about this book is having Weiss Portacio, was the artist who works in the covers, and I grew up watching, seeing Weiss's art, you know, and having him drawing the characters I developed. It was great. It was amazing.
Yeah. And so you just brought up there. So did you get to design any characters for Deathmatch?
Yes, as I said, the book was pre- was presented to me in a very embryonic stage, and I created the whole universe. You know, that's speaking in the visual terms.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, Lantern City, another amazing project you got to work on. Do you find that, like, with each comic, you find out more about yourself as an artist?
Uh, this happens with every page you make.
Yeah,
On each page, you cover something that you have to improve as an artist. There is always a new tool. There is always a new technique to learn. There is always something that makes the job a challenge. If not, why work? You
yeah,
know, that is the real reason. You wake up at the morning at 5 in the morning, for example, and go to workstation and work for 12 13 hours. You know, if you don't do this with love, you know, it's better not to do your job. Lantern City was another really cool job that I think to Trevor Kraft for choosing me for this amazing book.
yeah, absolutely. And so, what was it like getting to work on DC or work for DC?
DC Comics. DC Comics was the first big publisher I worked for,
Yeah,
and it was intensive learning experience. I remember after that story with Jonah Hex, after a few years, I was asked to do a Omac book with Bruce Jones, and the DC liked it very much, and what I've done with this book, and I never and I asked to and they asked me to do to be a exclusive artist for them. I was very insecure, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted at the time. I was forgetting to do what I like it, you know. On another hand, this thinking helped me assert myself as an artist. DC taught me to take the right path. DC taught me to, in many ways, what I would like, what I would like to be as an artist, and that's this kind of lesson has no price.
yeah, absolutely. And so, you also got to work on Cyborg. And so, is it fun for you as an artist to get to work on the lesser known comic book characters?
Mm, I let me see. Well, definitely to draw this kind of elements on Cyborg, it was the coolest thing on the book. You know,
Yeah,
there was a lot of landscapes with destruction. You know, in the books. I remember that. I remember pretty well. And definitely to draw these sci-fi elements, there's a lot of elements that it actually created for the book. DC left this kind of things in my hands. You
yeah.
know, there were some considerations from the editor, but in general, I was responsible for everything. I tried to be more daring in the page designs, you know, in the angles and everything else. I think these were the elements that I like to draw in the book.
Yeah, and so what is your favorite thing about drawing Cyborg? Is it the explosion landscapes or is it his design or what's your favorite thing to
Design
draw?
of the characters, I create a lot of of the characters. I created I don't remember pretty well because it was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I remember that I have very sweet memories about this. I remember there was a very good interaction between the editor and the artist and the writer, and we work as a team, a real team, and not just no. Now you have to draw this whole thing and forget to talk with with the writer, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice part of the job that I really remember about the Cyborg, because that was the first time when I joined as a team and not just as an artist, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what was also work what was it also like getting to work on Green Lantern?
Ah, Green Lantern. Oh Lord, can you believe I don't remember this?
Wow.
This one of these days, a friend of mine showed me this book, and I really didn't remember in of doing that,
Wow.
because and I know why today. There was just few pages. I worked in just few pages. I remember that it was just 5 or 6 pages, and just because the another artist didn't keep the schedule, and I was trying to help him to save his life for any reason. And I remember that I made all these pages in 2 or 3 days. I remember that, and I did it so quickly. And and after that, the pages would be needed to ink it and color it, and for that reason I thought that it was funny. But that's one of the reasons that I don't remember the book, because I was just trying to help save his life, the another's artist's life. That's for the reason I don't remember.
Amazing. And so my last couple of questions is do you notice improvement as an artist? Like, do you look back at some of your earlier work and say, "Oh, this isn't very good. I think I've become better." Or do you just notice improvement as an artist?
Yes, that's the real reason you work hard. If you don't improve your work, or any kind of work, is that's bad. And I also heard Will Eisner say that if your work isn't better than the day before, you're in serious problem.
Yes.
You know, and so is doubtless the biggest goal. You know, to get improvement in your work.
Yeah, definitely. And so what is your dream comic book work? If you could do any comic book character, is it Hulk? Is he your dream comic book character?
No, I drew the Hulk. I worked on the Hulk several times, but actually, this is very pretty simple to answer. I would like to work on my own comic book. You know,
Oh, wow.
I have been working on my own comic book for many years now, and I think that by the time this book of mine is published, uh, it will truly be a dream to come true. You know, I think this is it. I think that to work in my own comic book, I think is my main goal right now. Of course, I have a lot of projects, you know,
Yeah.
and I will start a new project this week, and
Wow.
that would be nice, be great, you know, to work in another um, comic book hero. But I think personally, my main goal now is to work in my own comic book.
Yeah, definitely. And so my last question is what advice would you have for anyone looking to get into comic books?
This is difficult. In a lot of ways, I'm a new artist. I'm a new artist, you know, who start to show up now, and I I am always listening and learning from another artists who know more and and more experience than myself. And this should never change in any level.
Yeah.
My advice for new artists: well, listen to those who know more than you, and there will always be advice, you know, of all kinds. You know the difference, what is good and what is bad for you. You know, read, search, study. You know, there's no secret. Just keep your mind on the right track, and everything's will be okay.
Perfect. And I don't think we could end it on a better note. Carlos, thank you so much for talking to me. I'll talk to you a little bit here. Before we finish up, are you on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Oh, I don't. I don't remember my Facebook. Yes, my Instagram, for example, it's Carlos Magno Comics, and
Yeah,
that is it.
exactly. So you can go check him out on Instagram and Twitter, and everyone make sure to go pick up Kang the Conqueror from your local comic book store. Of course, Carlos has it there. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. The art is fantastic, and I will be reviewing it soon, so you can stay tuned for that. Uh, yeah, everyone make sure to go pick it up. Like I said, issue 2 just came out recently. But yeah, Carlos, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been such a pleasure. I'll talk to you a little bit here. Everyone, please make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at SamboGizmo1 if you'd like. Please make sure to donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. Link for that in the description, or you can follow them on Twitter at the NDCS. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe and long live Kang the Conqueror. Bye.